This is Ken Songer, founder of Songer Audio, and I'm here today speaking to you from our new listening room in Wilsonville, Oregon, hosted by our good friends at Lamberdyne Heavy Industries. In a previous video, I spent a little time talking about our 10-inch full-range field coil loudspeaker driver, and today I would like to spend a little time talking about something that we're very proud of. This is our S2 dipole loudspeaker, and I wanted to show you how that field coil driver is used in this loudspeaker design and just talk to you a little bit about why it sounds so special. The S2 is the product of about 2 years of research and development, much of which was spent in developing the shape of this cabinetry, the way that the field coil is incorporated into it, and a lot of work into the crossover design, which gets the best performance out of the field coil driver and melds it in beautifully with the LO15 woofer that we have it paired with in this design. So the first thing that I would like to point out about the S2 is the baffle that you see here is a 1.7 inch thick solid hardwood baffle. It has very, very high mass, which means that it has very little resonance that's transferred from the drivers into the cabinetry, which of course gives it very high accuracy. I wanted to point out something about how the field coil is integrated into that baffle as well. So what you may not immediately notice here is that the entire frame of the driver does not touch the baffle anywhere. It's just floating in space there in the opening in the baffle, and that minimizes the amount of energy that the driver is transferring as resonance into the frame. This is called magnet mounting, and what that means, if you look around here in the back, this very heavy, very dense magnet, the electromagnet for the driver, is attached at just a single point. And it's attached here to a glass-filled nylon component into a hardwood mounting. It's 2.5 inches thick. Again, it's very high mass, and the entire design goal of it floating here in space and attached to that very high mass mount is again to transfer as little resonance from the driver as possible and just to allow it to operate freely without any kind of coloration, which gives it just a beautifully airy and very natural, balanced, tonally accurate presentation. The next thing that I would like to talk about is how the woofer here is port constrained. So that means that the port opening in front of the woofer is actually smaller than the woofer itself. It lowers the FS of the woofer. It also increases the SPL, or the sound pressure, of the woofer coming out the front. And that translates in a typical listening space, about 6 or 7, 8 feet away from the driver, as about a 2 to 3 dB gain in the performance of the woofer from the listening position. The next thing that I would like to talk about the cabinet design here around the back is the way that woofer is housed. It is in a folded baffle configuration, and what that does is it reduces the wave cancellations that are common to woofers in dipole applications. So in a dipole, as you can imagine, for a woofer, you have sound waves traveling out the front and sound waves traveling out the back. And in a dipole application, those tend to cancel one another out. And so the larger the baffle area, the more difficult it is for those waves to travel around the back and the front and to cancel one another. And the result is that you get much, much better bass performance out of it. We're getting just fantastic bass performance in this application, especially for just a single 15-inch woofer. We're very, very pleased with it. This design is crossed over at about 130 hertz. That means that the field coil is still doing almost all of the work. It's only when you truly get down into the bass region, into the non-directional portion of the frequency range, that woofer is blending in and performing the bass response for the speaker. What that ultimately translates into is a very phase coherent presentation of the music. And that is largely due to something that I covered in the previous video, this rear-firing wizard. And while I did talk about it in that prior video, you can see here how that actually works in practice. The whizzer is shaped such that it shoots just over the shoulders of the motor. It takes advantage of that acoustically transparent thermopolyurethane lattice, which doesn't inhibit the transfer of sound in the full frequency range in both directions, which gives just a wonderfully phase coherent presentation. The cabinet attaches to the bass with a sorbethane constraining layer, and that further reduces the ability of the cabinet to transfer any kind of unwanted resonance. You get just an uncannily lifelike musical representation with wonderful soundstage, pinpoint accuracy of instruments and vocals, just a very natural sounding, never harsh or sibilant, but extremely lifelike and detailed, sensitive presentation of the music. The S2 performs beautifully with single amplification. However, it likewise offers dual binding posts for biamping if you prefer. So thank you for listening. We'd love to host you down here in our new listening room in Wilsonville. Please feel free to reach out to us by phone, give us a call, or through the website. You can schedule a private listening session, and we'd love to hear from you.